So now that I've introduced you to the props that I use to exercise my feet and ankles, I thought I would just start this session of looking after your feet by just impressing upon you how important it is that you do look after your feet. Not least because they are the first point of contact with the ground, but also improved strength and flexibility in the feet and ankles will improve your balance. It will also improve your gait and therefore properly exercising your legs and hips when you walk. So there's a lot of reasons to look after your feet. If you have any issues, health issues, which may affect your feet, such as diabetes, for example, you will be already aware of how important it is to exercise the feet. But also you should really be careful with your feet, and anything that hurts or feels unpleasant, please avoid. So we're going to start by just simple exercise to warm up the feet, and that is jogging on the floor. Again, don't forget, if you feel that you are leaning back and trying to take the weight off your feet, you can use your rolled up towel and place it in the lumbar region just behind you so that you can comfortably sit upright whilst you jog your feet on the floor. Now I have bare feet on, so that means the room must be warm enough for you to be able to get your feet out. I know that some of you might not like looking at your feet, but it is a great advantage to have the feet bare when you're exercising them. Okay, so having jogged for a minute or so there, I can now feel my feet tingling, which is a good sign because that's indicating that the nervous system and the circulation of the feet are beginning to wake up. So then all I'm going to do is start by massaging the sole of my foot by using the tennis ball. So you just place the tennis ball under the arch of your foot and then begin making a rotating motion with your ankle. You have to be careful that the ball doesn't slip. So you need a certain amount of pressure. Make sure that nothing feels unpleasant or painful. You may have, for example, a tender spot on your foot that you wish to avoid. So I'm just rolling the tennis ball, changing direction every now and again, because every time you do this, you are also using muscles in your knee and your hip. So gently and 1 foot at a time so that you can use the passive foot, the foot that you're not working with, to keep yourself steady and upright. So if you wanted to put more pressure, then all you need to do is lean forward, pressing down more firmly with your foot into the ball. But again, starting with the arch of the foot and as much pressure as you can bear on the sole of your foot. So everyone has likely an old tennis ball knocking around somewhere, so you don't need to buy anything special or fancy for this. Tennis ball is about the right kind of resistance to warm up the feet. So again, already you should feel your feet are starting to tingle. Then you've got a choice of various different props. I like to use the slightly softer ball and really press down with the ball of my foot. Maybe you can even, oh, here's my cat, Bert, just passing through. So almost feel like you're beginning to stretch the toes to get a bit of daylight between the toes, to stretch the toes around the shape of the ball. And because it's got little prickles in and it's rubbery, it's not sliding away. And it's also massaging the tender bits of my foot at the necks of the toes. You might also notice your hands maybe are stretching when you try and stretch the toes. Okay, so again, using an appropriate prop. You can use your tennis ball for this. I'm just using this because it's slightly easier to stretch my toes out, stretching between the toes. And then I'm going to use a slightly harder ball to massage. So this time I'm going to roll the foot forwards and backwards, gently extending my heel away. So I'm trying to keep control of the ball. So again, a certain amount of pressure, and I'm rolling the ball. This is slightly easier if you have carpet on your floor, slightly easier to control. So just massaging as far as you can to the tip of the heel, and then across the sole of the foot, oop, to the toes. Okay, so just maybe using the toes as well. So using the spikier, harder ball, those little bumps on the ball, really massaging under the feet. Okay, so if you can't get hold of one of these balls, or if you don't like that sensation, then a good alternative is to use one of my foot rollers if you have a redundant rolling pin. It doesn't have to have notches on it, but if you do, and again, if this is comfortable and you feel like you could, then you could always stand. Again, make sure the roller you're pressing onto isn't going to slip, and you can then use the whole of the weight to roll across the foot, all the way from the heel to the toes. Okay, so I'm holding onto the chair to make sure that I'm comfortable standing on one leg. So giving the soles of your foot a good massage, that's improving the blood flow to the plantar muscle under the foot. So you might feel some tingling, you might even feel that the feet are warming up or reddening. So really good massaging under the sole of the feet, so the feet feel all tingly. Then I've got this prop, and again you could use a sock on the floor, and I'm going to try and pick up the sponge, or you can use a face flannel, I suppose, or a tea towel or a sock. Try and grip whatever it is with your toes, or effectively making a fist with your toes. Doesn't matter if you can't pick it up, just the effort of trying. And again, try with both feet, obviously 1 foot at a time, so that you can begin to stretch the front of your foot, the top of your foot, and really begin to get that clenching toe muscle working. Okay, anytime your feet feel a bit achy or tired, put them on the floor, give them a rest. Okay, this, I think it helps to look at your toes. So if you lean forward a bit onto the chair, you can put your elbows on your knees to support the weight of your upper body. And then I'm going to press down with my big toes and try and lift the rest of my toes. So I'm trying to press down with the big toe. You might need a bit of help. You might need to tread on one big toe with the other big toe and try and lift the other foot. I'm not lifting the whole foot. Okay, I'm trying to keep the bottoms of my toes on the floor, just lifting the toe bones. So the balls of your feet stay on the floor. And again, if you can, lift and lower. You might need to do this 1 foot at a time if you've got one foot that's slightly more responsive than the other. And again, it might help to give your sole attention to 1 foot and do 1 foot at a time. So then when you have practiced lifting up the small toes, leaving the big toes down, then you can try the opposite. So again, pressing down with all of the toes and lifting the big toes. But don't come up very high. Try not to lift up the other toes. So trying to keep as much of your foot pressing into the floor and just lifting up the big toe. And again, you might find this easier to focus on 1 foot, and it does help to look at your toes. So trying to lift the big toe bone and just the big toe bone away from the floor. And then you might be able to make things slightly more interesting, lifting up the little toes, pressing down the big toes, and then reversing. So you're dancing with your toes, trying to keep your heels and your leg bones still. So just the toes. Takes a bit of practice, and when you get really good at moving your toes around, then you could practice pressing down with the little toe and the big toe and lifting the 3 toes in the middle. So just trying to keep the little toe and the big toe down while you lift the toes in the middle. It is difficult, and again, you might need to practice this 1 foot at a time. This this is when you realise it takes an awful lot of effort and muscle. The feet are so complicated that all the muscles for the feet don't fit into the feet. So a lot of muscle around the knees, a lot of muscle behind the knees and in the ankles. Okay, so when you've finished playing with your toes, give your toes a rest, pick up one foot, stretch your heel away from you and circle the ankle. And I'm trying to do this keeping the rest of me as still as possible so that I know I'm using just the muscles and moving the bones of the ankle. A few in each direction. As soon as that leg gets heavy, put it down and do the other one. Again, as big a circle with my toes as I can without moving my leg about. Okay. Again, let the feet rest. Press the feet into the floor. And again, I'm going to try and lift just the front of my foot and feel as if I'm stretching the ball of my foot away from the heel. So I can feel muscles in the hip and thigh working. In fact, all of my leg muscles are working. Pushing the heel down, trying to lift up the front of my foot. And again, easier to do this 1 foot at a time. You don't have to lift the foot very high and you don't have to hold it there very long. You can feel all the muscles of the leg working. If you can, you could do this with both feet at the same time. Lifting and lowering the feet, digging your heels in, maybe get a bit of daylight between the toes if you can, so you're using all the muscles beneath the knee. Okay, and then again, you don't have to do this if it's painful or it hurts your feet. I'm going to put my feet slightly further in front of me and lift my heel away from the ground. So I'm pointing my toe. Again, some of you might be able to lift the foot completely off the floor. I'll turn to the side so you can see. I'm pointing my toe, getting a stretch down the front of my foot by lifting up the heel. Again, anything that makes you cringe or you think that your foot might cramp, don't do it. Yeah, you can lift the foot completely away from the floor. Some of you might be able to keep the heel lifted and flex your heel and ankle like so. But again, don't do anything which is uncomfortable or painful or makes you catch your breath. Okay, just moving that foot up, backwards and forwards, getting a stretch on the front of your foot and maybe down the back of your heel. Okay. So having made use of the muscles in the ankle and having warmed up the ankle, one last exercise that I like to do with the feet, and that is to, we need to be standing for that. So I'm going to stand. And make sure you've got nothing to bump into. And then just go for a little shuffle. So I'm just doing a little shuffle around the room. You can keep looking down at your feet. Little stamp. You can be lifting your feet up as quickly or as slowly as you feel comfortable. As soon as, don't go too far away from your chair when your legs get tired. Have a sit down and give those legs a good wobble. And again, if you want to, you can use your hands to wobble the thighs. And if you wanted to, you could reach down and wobble the calf muscles too. So giving everything a good wobble to encourage the circulation, to take away any lactic acid that was building up in your legs. Okay, so there you go, a few short, simple exercises using a few simple props to look after those feet. Thank you very much.